Hey everyone, and welcome to Liquid Liner Notes, a podcast that brings you interviews from the beverage and music industries. I'm your host, Danny, aka Hip Hops on Instagram. Today, I have a friend that I met through my vinyl and craft beer Instagram page, co-founder of Record Ghoul and a vinyl vendor out of Fresno, California, Dylan Medina. Dylan,
Hey, how's it
thanks for
going?
coming on. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on.
Good, good. So first, I wanted to start out just talking about your love for music and sort of as a vinyl collector. I knew you before you started Record Ghoul, so it's been us kind of going back and forth about records and music for a while, and then you decided to do Record Ghoul, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I just wanted to see how you.
Oh, hell yeah.
Sorry, I'm wearing the shirt. Um, but I just wanted to see, like, how did you get into music? Like, what kind of music are you into? What that kind of thing first.
So when I was like younger, I was really into like punk rock, hardcore music, and stuff like that.
Mm,
That's kind of where I broke away from what my family and like my parents were showing me
yeah,
and kind of did my own thing.
yeah.
I played in a punk band for a handful of years with my buddy who actually is the other co-founder of Record Ghoul. Um,
Oh,
And after I left that band, I got into like skateboarding and hip hop music. And I've been listening to hip hop since probably 2009. That was kind of when I made the transition towards that. And yeah, man.
yeah.
In like 2019, I think I started venturing more into listening to like funk and soul and jazz and got heavier into the music that was the foundation for hip hop.
Yeah.
So it's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that
Like a cool
sounds
blend of everything.
yeah, that's like remarkably similar. I wasn't ever in a band. I don't know how to play any instruments, but I mean I knew like hip hop because my dad listened to like the top 40 or whatever radio station, and I can like the first hip hop I remember hearing was Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio, and like falling in love with the sound of that. And then I kind of just like waxed and waned with different genres, and then I got into punk music when I was in middle school, and there was like the Punkorama collabs and stuff like that, or compilation CDs out, and there
Yeah.
was like Atmosphere and Sage Francis were on one of them, and that's what got me into hip hop music, and that was in like eighth grade, so I don't even know. I would have been like, I don't know, 2000 or something like that, or 1999, 2000, something like that when I started getting into it.
Damn, that's actually pretty funny because like the first stuff that I was listening to in hip hop was stuff that were my friends at the time were showing me, which was
Yeah,
like mainstream stuff, Lil Wayne, and like that was kind of the stuff that I got into early on.
yeah.
But one of my friends actually showed me Atmosphere, and that was one of the first things that got me into underground hip hop.
So I know you're from the Fresno area, correct?
Yeah, I was born and raised here.
And you're back, so you're back there now, and I know you spent some time in Minnesota, and we can talk more about that later if you want to, but I was just going to ask,
Yeah.
were your friends that showed you Atmosphere in Minnesota, or were you in California at the time? Which Atmosphere is from
No,
Minnesota, for those who don't know.
I was living in Fresno at the time, actually. It's my best friend Mitchell. It was him and his girlfriend, his partner Kelsey. They both kind of collectively showed me Atmosphere. They gave me the When Life Gives You Lemons album. That was like one of the
Oh,
first
wow.
underground hip hop LPs that was given to me. I was like, damn, man, no, this is pretty sick.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I have that on vinyl. I think the like I can't remember what the name of the album is right now. I can't tell you How Much Fun We're Having right now or something. Where he's sitting on the chair. I'm like blinking what you call that
Uh,
album.
yeah, you can't
Yeah.
imagine how much fun we're having.
Yeah. That was like, I think the track, I don't remember what track it was. It was on the Punkorama. I think it was from that album. And I kind of got out of them over time. I don't know why. I just kind of like fell out of love with it after a few years, but it is funny. And I do want to ask, you were in the band. What instrument did you play?
I played drums.
Drums. Very cool. Did you ever do anything besides like the punk drumming, or was it like, did you ever get into like trying to do jazz stuff, or is that kind of like you got into that after?
Well, see, I got into drumming because of my older brother. and my older brother was very much into like jazz music, and he was
Mhm.
kind of all over the place when we were younger. But he was also like a very, very talented musician and talented drummer. Worked at Guitar Center for years, and Herbie Hancock, the God damn it, why am I drawing a blank right now?
Pianist.
Headhunters.
Yeah, Headhunters. Yeah,
Headhunters. He used to listen to Chameleon off that album, and that was like his warm up song.
yeah.
So when I started playing drums myself, Chameleon, even when I was in my punk band, Chameleon would be something that I'd like warm up with, like all the little shuffles and kind of just get in the
And
groove, you
that's
know?
yeah, it's got a good like funk groove to it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like yeah, I love that album. When did you start collecting vinyl then?
I started collecting probably in 2000. My first, so sorry. My first
You're
collection
good.
was probably in like 2007 or 2008. Because and I was younger. I was in like seventh grade, eighth grade, but I only had a couple. It was like punk 7 inches that I had gotten, and
Yeah.
I ended up selling those. But when I like got back into it, it like hardcore. It was probably 2010. That's when I like my collection that I have now is based from probably 2010.
Nice. What kind of what were some of your favorite punk bands?
Oh man, I really liked Anarcho, like the '90s Anarcho stuff. Oz Rotten, Detestation. Oz Rotten's from Pittsburgh. Detestation, I think, is from Portland, Oregon. Um,
Yeah.
Antischism from South Carolina, really cool.
I never heard of them.
Um, but you know, like when I was first getting into punk, it was stuff like, you know, Misfits and Rancid and
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
you know, the Ramones. Loved the
Yeah.
Ramones. Dead Kennedys.
Yeah. And so you sold off your original collection and then you sort of just like decided, hey, I missed that. I want to get back into it. And by that time you were sort of getting into hip hop a little bit more.
Yeah, I had had like a falling out with my band at the time, and so I kind of like liquidated everything that had to do with punk and that all that because when I at the time I wanted to distance myself from it because I had a lot of mixed feelings with punk,
Yeah.
but when I started collecting again, by that time it was hip hop music, and I still have some of the first. Actually, I have the first two 12 inches that I ever bought.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What was your, do you remember like what was your first album? I mean, I can tell you, so I'll tell you mine was Felt 3. And I just like happened to be in a record store and they had a it was a used copy, but it was sealed. And so I got it. I don't think it was like $12 or something like that. But that
Hell
was
yeah.
the first LP I ever bought.
That's a good LP.
Yeah. What do you remember what your first one or two were? I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
when you started recollecting, sorry. Yeah.
the first, well, I remember my first 7 inch that I ever bought was Lower Class Bratz Psycho, but I sold that initially.
Yeah.
And then when I started recollecting, I bought it was Ice Cold from Ice Self Divine, the 12 inch
Okay.
single,
Yeah.
and People Under the Stairs Will Be There, the 12 inch single.
Nice. And I know that you're a huge People Under the Stairs fan, which may go into my next question. So I was going to ask you sort of like what your prized possession is in your collection, because I know I wanted to sort of highlight you as a vinyl collector and a music fan, and then we can jump into the owning
Yeah.
the record store thing. But go ahead.
Um, my prized possession as far as records is probably my 10 years of Thess One box set.
Yeah.
And that's been my so it what that is it's a collection of unreleased beats that Thess One from People Under the Stairs did over a 10-year course of their career, and it came in like a handcrafted wooden wine box and a big like lyric book type deal that was signed by Thess and had a bunch of explanations for what he was doing in that time when he made the music. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, and I actually this is gonna lead to my next point I was gonna ask you about. I heard you mention that on the hip hop vinyl spinners the first time you were on there.
Hmm.
Um, and I right when you said that, I was like, I gotta look this up. But that's wild. I remember it was like limited to 150 copies or something. He like made the boxes by hand, and you were saying that's.
Yeah,
I mean, that seems like a really cool dude. I know through your Instagram you've got to like meet him recently and everything like that, and he seems
yeah,
like he's like a real personable, down to earth dude. So that's awesome.
yeah. No, it was really cool. I went down to Oceanside to go see a show with. It was like this chemistry collective launch that they were doing for a surfboard shop that I don't know if Fess is like has a stake in it or something,
Hmm.
but it's his friend, and they had a bunch of really cool artists. It was like Fess One, Kid Abstract, DJ Chaps, Blames. Uh, yeah. Anyway, so I got to meet Thess, and he signed like a fat stack of records that I brought for him.
That is
It was
awesome.
really cool. He was really cool about it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I know like a couple people I probably we share friendship with on Instagram, and I saw that they were like doing live videos and stuff like that. So I was kind of trying to keep track of what was going on, but it looked like a good time.
Yeah, hell
How,
yeah.
how far of a drive is Oceanside from Fresno?
With or without traffic?
I don't know how long did it take you that day.
um, I think it was like, man, I want to say it was like almost 5.5 hours to get to
Jeez.
Santa Ana, where that's just to Santa Ana, and that's where I met up with Mike, Vinyl Junkies. I
Oh,
actually
okay.
carpooled with him out to the show, and it was like another 2 hours from Santa Ana to get to Oceanside with traffic. So collectively, it was almost 8 hours.
That is wild. I mean, California is
Yeah.
just so long. I've only been to like Anaheim and San Diego and LA area one time. Like we hit all those while we were there. But
Oceanside's pretty close to San Diego. It's like
oh,
30 minutes north of San Diego.
towards like Temecula then?
Ye-
I don't
Fuck,
even know.
man.
Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. We stopped at a winery in Temecula. That's the only reason I know that.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Cool.
yeah. So about hip hop vinyl spinners, and we just have to touch. We can touch on this briefly, but you did we were involved in a podcast, and it stemmed from a Facebook page where it was just a bunch of people who were into hip hop, and it sounded. And I think I actually still follow it. I just don't ever go on Facebook anymore. But it had people who were into mainstream hip hop and underground hip hop, and sort of all the eras of underground hip hop and mainstream hip hop. But so just like briefly, what was that like? How was that community? Did you enjoy doing the podcasting?
The community was really cool, especially at like a certain point in time in the group. It was like a very tight knit group, and there was a lot of people, a lot of interaction. There was a community spirit in there at one point.
Yeah.
I met
Did
a
that
lot of people that I'm still in contact with.
did that start? So I know like you guys started doing the podcast, post the pandemic starting. Was the whole Facebook page prior to the pandemic, or did that all kind of start together?
No, yeah, the Facebook group. I didn't even start the Facebook group. I was just one of the admins. Dave was actually the dude that started it, and I think that he started it in like 2016 or something like
Oh,
that.
wow. Yeah.
Um, but he didn't really try and grow the group. And then when I came into the group and sort of volunteered a lot of time, I brought a lot of people to the group because I enjoyed the aspect of being able to talk music with people and you know share something that we were all kind of into with like
Yeah.
a collective group.
It's hard. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of friends that are into underground hip hop music, so it's like you kind of like have to. It's such like a niche genre, and I mean, maybe you have a different experience than what I do, but there, it's. Like you
Not at
almost have
all.
to go online to find people that are into it.
No, yeah, I agree. I don't have any of my friends. Well, I have one friend that's into hip hop. We're into slightly different stuff, but for the most part, uh, you know, none of my friends are really into the stuff or know the stuff that I'm into. So going online was like a way for sure.
Yeah. And so you decided, or I guess I want you tell the story. How did you decide that you wanted to do Record Ghoul? Had it always been something you wanted to do, and you had just been waiting for the time to do it, or how did that come about?
So I've always wanted to work well, let me rephrase. I've always wanted to be involved in music one way or another, um, whether it was playing music or listening, collecting. I would have loved to have played music in a band professionally. That would have been awesome. Uh, Kind of just anything to be involved with music, and record collecting has been a part of my life since I was like a kid, and it was something that I had always thought about doing, but there was a lot of risk that's involved in doing it. And you know, I got kids.
Yeah,
You know what I mean. Like
yeah, yeah. And
you,
it takes
you
it takes
can't
a
just
lot of
like
capital to start all that. So
yeah.
I get that. I get that. And
Uh,
so go ahead. Sorry.
no, no. I was just gonna say that it was kind of like a timing thing. It was something that I had always wanted to do, but it had to be the right time for me to do it. And I helped put my wife through nursing school, and after she graduated from nursing school, it kind of allowed us to switch positions to where I could be a stay-at-home parent and actually put in the energy and effort into the dream that I wanted to pursue.
Yeah, that is awesome. My wife and I always joke that we're like one day gonna have like a brick and mortar that's like a record store slash craft beer bar slash coffee bar. So it's like those are like my three favorite
Dude,
things. But I
do
mean,
it,
it's like nah, we're like especially now in Chicago, where there's just another record store that opened. Like we're like so saturated with record stores here, it's wild.
man.
Um,
You know that I don't know. I hear you on that, but after living in a couple different major cities, because I lived in Minnesota or in, like near Minneapolis and Sacramento, and you see how many stores there are there, and all of them have successfully been operating. It's like
yeah,
the way that I see it, as long as you are something that is fresh and you can set yourself apart from the people in your area, there's
yeah,
always room for you to make your move, man.
that is awesome. I mean, I have too many student loans to pay off right now, but one day maybe that'll be like my retirement egg will do be opening that up, and by then, who knows if records are still going to be a thing. So you mentioned, and I just wanted to ask, so since this is a beverage and music podcast, and I know you and I have briefly talked about beer in the past, living in the two regions, so Midwest and with Minnesota, and then the West Coast. What what's your experience with like craft beer?
Minnesota and Sacramento are both popping for as far as like breweries that are putting out quality beers. Um, Minnesota was Minnesota was very different because I felt like it's a little bit different than California in the sense that there's not as big of a focus. Like there is a focus on IPAs and things like
Yeah,
that because obviously it's the popular style of beer, but it wasn't always the main like the flagship beer for breweries out in the Midwest.
yeah.
But I mean, dude, you live in Chicago, so I don't need to be telling you anything about the Midwest.
No, yeah, no, I know. Surly up there, they were always like hop heavy, like except for like darkness and stuff like that. But they're
No,
like one
yeah.
of the ones I could think of that may have been hop heavy. But yeah, you're right. A lot of those up there, that's not their first go to or
The,
flagship.
the like Northeast IPA for whatever
Yeah,
like that was what was really popular out there, but the West Coast styles weren't as prevalent, I guess.
yeah, yeah,
And in California, it seems like every brewery has like a whole list. of IPAs, and I'm coming at it from I I'm coming at it from the standpoint of I really like like I like browns and reds and porters and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, winter.
Yeah, it's hard to find brown ales and red ales for sure right now. Yeah. So
Uh,
I'm jumping I was gonna jump back to the record Ghoul thing. I and just from following you on Instagram, I have a memory, and I might butcher the area, but that you sort of it was like you just decided to do this, and then it like went live, and then you were like driving to Las Vegas or something like that to like do like a huge pickup of like some buddy of yours collection that he was selling off. What was that? What was that like?
yeah, yeah. Uh, that trip was really fun. Um, I'm really thankful that I had a friend that was willing to help me out. I mean, it was kind of a mutual thing. He had just had kids, and he didn't have. He told me he didn't have the room for records, and he wanted to get rid of them because they were just kind of sitting there. And at the time, I was already pulling things from my own personal collection that I wasn't listening to very often to help
Yeah,
sort of source records for Record Ghoul. And so yeah, no, we ended up driving to Vegas, and I picked up. It was like 600 records. A majority of them were hip hop. It was like 300 hip hop records, something like that.
that sounds yeah, it's like a
And
gold mine.
yeah, no, especially nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know. So you started out selling through Instagram before you sort of started doing your pop ups and stuff like that. And I picked up I don't even know how many, I don't know, 5 or 6 records from you probably. And I remember one of them I got was like the AFI record, and you were like, "Oh yeah, this one's for my
Yeah,
personal collection." So I
yeah,
have
no, that was my record, and I was like, man, take care of it.
yeah, no, it was that was one of those things that was sort of like a nostalgia buy because I haven't listened to them in a while, but when I saw it, I was like, it sort of brought back memories of middle school for me because that was like middle school, and then ninth grade was when I was really into the punk scene, and AFI were like one of my favorite groups at the time. They kind of started going like goth eventually, like that, like goth, like industrial sound eventually, which I kind of didn't really enjoy, but that early stuff was so good.
Yeah, no, the first like 5 albums are really, really good. And then it was after, what was the name of that album? The one that had Girls Not Gray.
I I'll have to look because I can't remember.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
Sing the Sorrow.
Yeah, God, I don't know why I was drawing a blank on that. That was the album that was the marking point for them kind of switching their sound.
Yeah. So I never even got into their first album, but the Very Proud of You, which is the one that I bought off of you, Black Sails in the Sunset. Those were like my two favorite, and then the Halloween EP, I loved that. Oh, All Hallows EP, I loved that, and I really want to find a copy of that that's not uber expensive, and I think they just repressed them, so I might be able to do that soon.
Yeah, no, I have that one. That was almost one that I was like, oh, should I set? No, no, I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep
no,
it.
that one's that was too good, and it was really expensive. Like, I mean, the early pressings of that were going for a lot of money until I think they just did a repress within the last year. Um, so what was it like going from, sorry, let me actually ask, selling on Instagram? How was that, and how was I know you were kind of just doing it out of your like house and everything like that. Like, what logistically, what was that like with the shipping and getting the packaging and all that stuff?
So when I was doing all of that, I had like a brand new baby at home, and
So you had a lot
so
of
that was
time.
yeah. Well, yeah, no, there was
Yes
some
and no.
downtime. Yes and no for sure. Um, but I was doing the drops as a way to sort of like build momentum for wanting to do the pop-ups because Instagram, I met you on Instagram, and it was it's a place that felt comfortable at the time to like be able to set up and sell. But doing it out of my apartment was definitely not. It
Yeah.
wasn't easy. My wife was not happy. There was a lot of records in my house at the
Yeah.
time.
No, I have a pretty big collection, and they're all like in like the IKEA Calyx or whatever shelves. And my wife still is like, this is a lot of space, even though it's like they're in shelves. So I can only imagine what it would be like with something like that, especially when you drive to Vegas and pick up 600 records.
Yeah, no, it was I had records in my living room and in my closet and on like a wall in my room as well. It was
Yeah.
like it because it wasn't like I had other records that I had picked up prior to that first collection. Like I had like 7 boxes of singles for very, very cheap from a friend. It was more of an impulse buy
Yeah.
prior to me starting Record Ghoul, and then it was like a added bonus once I started it.
Yeah. You had sort of stock already. What's that? What's the storage situation been like? I know that you had a storage unit. Like, how did that grow?
So it started out of my apartment, and when it reached the point of me having to like live on top of records, I was like, all right, well, I need to do something. So I got a storage unit. It was like a temperature controlled storage unit in Sacramento.
Yeah.
It was like a 5 by 10 space, so it wasn't huge, but I made it work for what I needed,
Yeah.
and that was sort of where I was kind of based out of for a long time because I kept a lot of my like vending stuff there, and I'd go there and price records and but I just moved out of that storage unit just recently, actually. So I moved all of that stuff down to Fresno because it's all just kind of been sitting up in Sacramento
Hmm.
since December because I just
What's
moved back to Fresno in
okay?
December.
What's the drive like from Fresno to Sacramento?
Uh, it says it's supposed to be 3 hours, but you can get there in 2.5.
It's faster than I mean, longer than I thought it was going to be. But again,
Yeah, yeah.
not familiar
It,
with that northern part of California.
dude, honestly, I've driven across country like 4 different times, and after you've driven across the country, driving, as long as it's not like 12 hours, it
Yeah.
seems close.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that because we've driven to like not it's not even that far, but like parts of Michigan or down to like Nashville or whatever, and that feels like nothing compared to we've done the drive to Florida twice, or from Florida and then to Florida, which is my hometown, and that's like a I don't even know forever drive. The first time we did it, we had 3 dogs and a cat, or 2 cats, and then the other time we had 2 kids. So it's wild.
Damn, yeah, no, that sounds pretty brutal.
Yeah. So you moved from doing selling through Instagram, and you started doing the pop ups, and it looked like through Instagram again that it was like I don't want to say farmers markets, but it was like almost like pop up markets where there was different kinds of vendors of all types. Or
Yeah, no, it was definitely a little unorthodox for records because I was actually the only record vendor in the area that was willing to do these type of events that I was doing because I kind of talked to like I all right, sorry. So let me backpedal a little bit. Before I started doing the markets that you're talking about, the ones that had like a mix of vendors,
yeah.
my very first event was a small record fair that was hosted in a coffee shop in Berkeley. And I made a few friends from doing that first event. And from doing that, I connected with a small portion of the record community that was based out of like the Bay Area and Sacramento.
Hmm.
And when I did that, I sort of started talking to people and getting a feel for the area and kind of learning how everyone moved and where everyone sold and stuff like that. Not like in a bad way, you know what I mean? Just kind of trying to take note of
Yeah.
how people do it in the area. And I had asked a friend of mine if he had ever done this specific market that I was thinking of signing up for that was in Sacramento. And he told me that he did it one time and it wasn't really the move for him, so he didn't do it again. And I was like, all right, well, and I took that with a grain of salt and I was like, all right, well, I don't really know what else to do. I don't want to just like sit on all of these records, so I'm gonna just try.
Yeah.
Signed up for it, and I was the only record vendor, which some people would say is a bad thing, but a lot of people would also say it's a good thing because
Yeah.
there's no competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, my first event that I did out at one of those markets was very, very, very successful, and like it encouraged me to continue to keep doing what I was doing. And so I've done that same market. It's Sacktown's finest market. That's kind of where like my base has been in Sacramento for since I started. But I've been trying to sort of move away from doing those types of markets and focusing more on stuff that's like actually record fairs or where people are looking for records.
Do you think that your buddy that was saying it was a no go for him? Do you think that that was like because of the genre he really had? Like maybe. I mean, I don't, obviously I don't know
Yes.
who he is or anything.
No,
Okay,
no,
because
no. Yes. 100% yes.
I was gonna ask if like the clientele at that type of market maybe is like a certain age. Like here at the farmers markets, it's a lot of people like my age, like mid 30s, maybe early 40s. So it's like I don't know like what kind of stuff he was carrying, but it may not be like the best for somebody who has like a lot of like Beatles or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah, no, you're actually very right. I think that based on what he was carrying, it wasn't really curated towards a younger audience.
Yeah,
And the fact that I had hip hop and alternative, like metal, punk, and things like that, and I was actually very surprised to see the type of things that people bought out of there because there was young kids like 20 years old asking me for Frank Sinatra records, and I was like, what are you doing listening to Frank Sinatra? But like, that's not like a bad thing. I thought it was really
right.
cool, actually. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I do actually have some Frank Sinatra, but like, how'd you get into Frank Sinatra?
yeah.
Which
I mean,
that's one of my favorite things about vending too is you get to connect with so many different types of people and talk to them and sort of talk music and pick their brain even for a second just to kind of be like, like, how'd you get into this?
yeah. That is that is always awesome. Like I love talking to music people, and if you have somebody who maybe their like looks don't fit with what they pick out, or the age doesn't fit with what they pick out. I mean, those would be
Yeah.
awesome conversations to have. Do you think you got a lot of like repeat customers whenever you would be there? Like see the same people?
Yeah, no, actually, I have a handful of people that are still repeat customers that I like talk to on Instagram, and like when I post things, they'll be like, "Oh man," like they've bought me from me for so long that they'll be like, "Oh man, I'm gonna pick that up if it's available at the next one." I'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, for sure."
Yeah, that's awesome. What's it been like getting stock? Like as far as like do you only carry used stuff or do you get new stuff? How's that? How competitive is the market up there to even get like collections from people or whatever?
So I really try. I mean, admittedly, this is probably a little bit naive. I'll just lead off with that. I
Yeah,
try really hard not to look at this and doing what I'm doing as a competition with all of the other people in my area because there's enough room for all of us to do what we're doing based on our work ethic, if that makes sense,
yeah,
right? So I'm very active in my area. I'm always looking for records. I'll drive somewhere to go pick up a collection of records. I pay fair. I'm like, I guess I am competitive in the sense of like, I can compete with what I pay people for collections and stuff. So I don't know, man. I try not to look at it as a competition. So getting stock is easy because I'm not worried about what anyone else is doing except me.
Yeah. And I guess like for anyone who's like, hey, this is something I want to do as well, or I just me out of my own curiosity, I'm just curious, like when you go somewhere, say someone has like 150 records or whatever, do you kind of have just like a set, like, okay, I want to give X amount for per record, that would be this much, or do you like literally like flip through and be like, okay, this one I know is worth like 50, this one I know is worth like 10, this one's worth 5, like how does that go?
So in the beginning, it was a lot of guesswork because I will say that I have learned a lot of stuff even so I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and I've been collecting for a long time, so I had that sort of knowledge prior,
Yeah.
but in just the 2 years that I've been buying, I've learned a lot. So in the beginning, it was a lot of guesswork, and I kind of wanted to pay fair, and I never really approach a situation with a specific number in mind as far as like per record, especially if it's quality records. I more so, I'm like a collaborative buyer with people. I like to ask them like, well, what were you hoping to get for the collection? And then kind of going from there, basing it around what their response is. Because
Yeah. You
I
don't
never want
you
to come in and like offend someone, and I
Yeah.
don't want to be overzealous either.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't want to, yeah, like bargain against yourself.
Yeah, you know, hey, as much like I love records, and that's where this comes from. Is like as far as a foundation. Obviously, I have to be able to make money off the stuff that I buy. So
Yeah.
I try and approach buying from a collector and a business standpoint because I know that some people aren't going to let things go for super cheap. Like, most record stores, they're like $1 or two a record, and that's what they
Yeah.
pay for their used records. And that's why a lot of the record collections end up going to people like me because it's more fair.
Yeah. That is I love like some as someone who's on the outside looking in, watching what you've been doing and watching this grow. It's been fun watching you take like this passion that you have and turn it into like a sustainable business. It's like you've slowly been growing, and it's been, evident through watching you on Instagram, and it's been fun to watch.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. Do you carry new stuff too, or do you kind of just limit yourself to used stuff?
Um, I would say that the primary focus is used records because
Yeah.
that's personally what I feel I'd like to offer. The other record stores in my area sort of focus on new records because
I've I've heard the
so
margins with the used stuff too.
yeah, well, yeah, obviously, like you
Yeah.
make more money on used records than you do. Like new records are. I've opened accounts. I have accounts open with Fat Beats and Light in the Attic and
Gotcha.
a few other like smaller distributors, but I haven't placed any official orders through them
Yeah.
because the margins are razor thin.
Yeah. And that's what I sort of was like gonna get at, was just as someone who's a collector and a consumer of it, I just was like curious sort of how that relationship with the labels and getting new stuff is, because I know I've heard it's, yeah, like you said, the margins are thin. It's not where the money's at. So it's gotta be difficult, especially when you have certain things that you're giving them a lot of money for, and then it could sit on your shelf for a while. So it's like, yeah, it's a gamble.
Yes, it is a guessing game because new records do bring in people because there's a lot of young kids that are um, like I don't know. That sounds bad me saying that. There's a lot of newer collectors that find it easier to just buy. Man, that sounds bad too. I'm like, I don't want to sound bad saying this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No, I
when it
mean,
comes when it comes to newer records, some people feel more comfortable paying for something that's new and sealed than they do paying for an older record that may have some defects or flaws or things like that. Even if
yeah.
that means that they have to pay more to get the newer sealed record.
Yeah, and
And that,
I think that it transfers to like a lot of, commodities outside of just vinyl. Because
yeah,
you don't see people going to like, Plato's Closet or, one of those like resale shops.
yeah, for sure.
But I have heard that, I mean, you also have the risk of you have this thing that's new and you open it and it has, a defect and then like, or a scuff or a scratch or whatever. And it's just like, 'cause it's another gamble. I mean, obviously it's less likely if it's new, I mean, if it's used and it's open, you have the opportunity to like look at it. So it's like, you have some security with that.
Yeah, that's actually why I like used records because at least you can open and inspect them. There's a lot of quality control issues that come into like newer records and how quickly they're trying to pump the records out to get them
Yeah.
to people. Like they end up sealing records that are still warm, and then that's why people get warped records.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I've been hearing more and more about like they have two. So if it's a 2 LP, they have like two side CDs, like two discs, twos or whatever, like in the package. Like stuff like
Yeah,
that happens. I mean, I guess if you're buying it new from somebody, I'm sure that store would offer some kind of like guarantee to, take it back or whatever if that was the case.
yeah. No,
But
I've bought new records before or like sealed reissues of things. Notably, I bought a the Sleep Dope Smoker. This was probably in like 2012.
mhm.
But I bought the Sleep Dope Smoker. It was a sealed pressing of it. It was like the Indica, and it came with two CD discs rather than an AB CD. And I took it back to the
uh,
shop and they gave me my money back, and it was like no problem. Now that I'm on like the other side, when you have stuff like that happen, you can contact your distributor, and
yeah,
they'll
okay,
they'll give you a credit for stuff like that.
yeah. So you're not like eating that money. And
No, yeah,
an- another question, again, coming from a collector, I feel like I would really struggle with like getting someone's collection, flipping through it, especially the guy from Vegas. You said there was a lot of hip hop and being like, okay, I can't take this from my own collection. I've been looking for this album forever. Like how hard is it to not pick through stuff and be like, I want to keep this?
I keep at least one thing from every single collection I buy.
Yeah,
At least one.
yeah,
Um, and I'm pretty. I try and be selective. That way, it's like something juicy. Because dude, honestly, I'm a collector first and foremost. Like before any of the stuff that I do with reselling, I just love collecting records. So it is tough, and I even struggle on the opposite side of that. I actually struggle with having things in my collection that I'm like, am I appreciating this enough? Should I just sell it to someone else that will, like play it more or like give it a better home? Because
yeah.
I have a lot of stuff and I don't get to everything,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
So, I get shit from my buddy actually, the other co-founder, all the time. He'll see stuff in my bins and he's like, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why aren't you keeping that?" And I'm like, "Nah, like I gotta I gotta give it to someone else." And he's like, "You're fucking up, man. You need to keep that."
Is he a collector too?
Yeah, dude, actually, he is the person that got me into collecting records. I've known him since we
Uh,
were in seventh grade, and he has been collecting records since then.
wow. Yeah, that would have been a good time to get into the game for sure.
Dude, when I tell you that I used to sit there with him on eBay, this man would buy like 30 records in a day, and they were all like $3 a piece on eBay.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild.
Insane.
Is he into hip hop and stuff too, or is he?
I've gotten him into some stuff here and there, but he's a punk collector, punk,
Oh,
hardcore, metal, heavy metal, stuff like that.
yeah. My local shop, it's named Tone Deaf, and they have like I feel like that's like his thing that he has up on everybody else in the city is he has like a really big punk collection, which I've been out of tune with since the early 2000s. So I have no idea what any of it is, but he has a ton of 7 inches and a ton of punk LPs he gets in. It's pretty. It to me, it's cool to like see, but I don't know anything about it.
Man, yeah,
Um,
no, I would probably be the same way if I didn't have someone sort of keeping me in the loop.
yeah. I want to. So next, I want to ask you sort of like how you've been trying to grow it in terms of like marketing. I know obviously you made T-shirts, which I'm wearing, and so I know you have a website now that you have a few records up on for sale. Is that something that you're planning on expanding? Like what have you been doing to grow, and what are your ideas?
Uh, we have we have a lot of things that we have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I don't want you to give any spoilers or anything like that. So, you
No, 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 no. It's cool, man. Fucking we no, honestly, when I say we have a lot of ideas, we do, and it's just we're both. There's a lot of things that are sort of taking up time that we would otherwise focus on stuff like that. So in order, or, sorry, let me just answer the question. To grow it, we've been doing things like I've been considering kind of coming back on to Instagram and selling some stuff. That's how I started, and I sort of moved away from it because I liked to keep the like best stuff to sell locally so that I could sort of
yeah,
build my local base. But selling more online, whether that be Instagram or through the website, we're trying to do different types of events and sort of move away from the vendor markets that we've been doing in Sacramento and instead focusing on things like music festivals and um, other record fairs where people are there to buy records specifically, or they're in
yeah.
an environment where they're more likely to buy records, I guess. Um, we're moving towards a shop. That's ultimately the end goal, to
The
have like a
goal,
brick and mortar spot.
nice.
Um, we have like a workspace that we work out of right now here in Fresno, and it's being used to just kind of like get ourselves organized and get towards having something that we can offer as like the first version of what the shop will be.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's a good. I mean, it's better to yeah, like put your toes in the water before you put like a 48 months lease on something or something. You know what I mean? Just to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure.
for sure. We've been doing like this. We're trying to establish our name in the Fresno area by like we have our vinyl nights that we do at
Yeah.
a local bar,
And I
and
was gonna
like
ask you that. So I know you play records at that local bar. Do you also bring stuff to sell there?
uh sometimes yes. We haven't the last few times because it's so we're there every other Monday, and Mondays are sort of slow until it hits like an hour left of what we're doing. And so those nights we don't normally bring records with us to sell, but because sometimes we do art hop in Tower District in Fresno at the same bar that we normally play at on Mondays, and that's on a Thursday, and lots of people are out in Tower District and like out doing shit. So we bring records those nights because it's actually worth the labor on our backs to lug it all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to you mentioned music festivals. I know you just did Hyro Day recently, and I've never been there. I know it's a free festival. It's a lot of hip hop acts. What was that like? Was it a good time? Was it successful for like from a business perspective?
Yeah, that was my first time vending a music festival actually. it was really cool. We were there with my buddy Justin, who does graphic villain, and yeah, man, there was a lot of people. We weren't really sure what to expect because it was a free festival, but they also capped how many free tickets there were for the day.
which is good.
No, no, for sure, because the years prior, they've been doing this since like 2013, and that year, 2013 and 14, when it was free, it was like insane. Like you couldn't even barely move walking through the stuff, right? So it is
Yeah.
good that they capped it, but um, anyway, yeah, it was a really good day. We made some good money. We sold a lot of records. I had another event, so I did Hyro Day on Labor Day Monday or Sunday. No, it was Labor Day Monday, and then we went back to Fresno from Oakland, and but we had to come back up to Sacramento on Friday because we had an event on Saturday. So we did an event in
Mhm.
Oakland on Monday and then an event in Sacramento on Saturday. And we between those two events, we sold almost 100 records.
Wow, that's pretty. That sounds
Yeah,
pretty
no.
good from
No, no,
from what I'm saying.
it was pretty solid, man. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and your buddy that you mentioned, I already forgot what you just said his name was, that you were doing Hyro Day with. He does like slip mats and t-shirts and all other stuff, right?
No, so Mike from Vinyl Junkies does the slip mats.
Oh, that's right.
Um, my buddy Justin, who does graphic villain, he does like the t-shirts. So if you've seen me post pictures on Instagram with like the Lord Quaz and like the Wu Tang t-shirts,
Yeah.
he does that stuff. And he's actually the one that encouraged me to get out there and like do vending as a way to start what I was doing because he's been vending with t-shirts for 15 years.
Yeah, and it's a dupe or a dope like collaboration you guys can have. Doing a pop up together because there's definitely some crossover with the consumer with both of those.
Yeah, no, it worked out really well. It complemented we complimented each other as far as like the way the booth was really full. It looked like that was the way that the booth should have been.
Yeah, yeah, it looked cool. I mean, you were posting pictures, and it looked like it was like, now that's something you'd want to walk up to. Was there a lot of vinyl sellers at Hyro Day? Actually, now I'm thinking about it,
No, we were the only one out there with records.
that sounds just so wild. I mean, part of me would be like, I don't want to walk around with a record while I'm, you know, at a music festival, but at the same time, I probably would definitely hit it up on my way out or something.
No, and that was something that was a thing. There were some people that were like, I'm gonna come back at the end of the day, and so we stayed set up for like an hour almost after the festival ended because people were just trickling in buying shit still. We're like, all right, cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, you got to. Was that what? Could you hear music and stuff while you were doing it?
We were actually set up in between the two stages, so it
Uh,
was less of like music and more of kind of like a battle of the sounds type scenario.
yeah, just like a white noise.
Yeah, but I did. I wasn't able to sneak away, but my wife, who is part of the team that goes out and like bins with us and stuff, she kind of went and checked out hieroglyphics and common when they were performing.
Common performed.
Yeah, he was the
That's
headliner.
pretty awesome. Oh, I didn't. So yeah, hieroglyphics. We were calling it Hyro Day, but it's from hieroglyphics, which are a Bay Area like rap supergroup. But no, that's awesome. The Common was there too.
Yeah, common. Do you know Abstract Rude?
Yeah, I know the name. I'm not. I'm sure I know some tracks, but I'm not like a huge fan. I don't like own anything from him.
He's like a Project Blowed LA dude.
Hmm.
He's really cool. He was out there too. He performed. Murs actually had a surprise performance as well. He wasn't supposed to, but he came out and performed.
That's cool. Yeah, some of the LA artists making it up to the Bay
Yeah.
Area. Yeah. So just I had a couple other like business questions, but what's something that if you didn't have to worry about, money or consumers, what would you like to see Record Ghoul become? And I know you said you'd like to get a brick and mortar, but do you have like a vision where if you didn't have to worry about money and everything?
Oh, I'd love to press records. I'd love to be
Uh,
a like a record label and like do independent music from my area. I'd love to do reissues of sick obscure records that people don't know about that they should.
yeah,
Like that, just sharing music with people, man. Like I'd love to eventually, like we've talked about when the time comes that we have a brick and mortar, that it would be awesome to do like a collaboration with one of our local breweries for like a, you know what I mean? Like an
yeah,
opening type beer. Um, there's a really cool spot. There's two spots actually. There's one in LA and there's one in Davis. The one in LA is Glass House. They're like a record store slash venue slash bar. That would be sweet to be able to host live music, you know?
yeah,
Uh, just kind of anything that revolves around music.
yeah. I'm blanking on what it's called here, but there's a spot that's called Dorian's is like the music venue part of it, but it's almost like that's like a speakeasy. Like they have like a cocktail bar back there, but it's like a record store on the front, and then it's like a little like hideaway to get to this stage and cocktail bar in the back.
Damn, that
Uh,
sounds sick.
yeah, I've actually never been there. I need to go there, but it's one of those things where when you got two young kids, like you don't get out too much with that kind of thing.
I totally hear you.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone else who's wanting to do what you do? Like, or something that you kind of like learned while you were doing this that you wish you knew in the beginning?
Don't pay attention to anyone else except what you're doing.
That's
Focus on
good
yourself.
stuff. Yeah, because you don't want to have that like I don't know what's like the word everyone's using now, like imposter syndrome, where you're sort of like psyching yourself out.
Yeah, yeah. It's easy to sort of overwhelm yourself with the like aspect of like exactly that. The whole imposter syndrome. Like, should I be doing this? There's other people that are already doing it. And I think that is very. I don't, I don't know what the word is. It's bad. It holds you back. You know.
Yeah, But-
In
yeah. It's
layman's
like
terms.
yeah, it's a bad puts you in a bad mental state. You don't want to. You got to be thinking like positive vibes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and when you focus on yourself and you're not paying attention to anyone else except what you're doing, then it's from a place of enjoyment instead of envy and reaction.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to ask you next. Where can people find you?
We are on Instagram at record_ghoul. You can find us in Fresno at Goldstein's. If by chance you're in Fresno,
And that's the every other Monday vinyl night, correct?
yeah, yeah, we're there the second and fourth Monday of each month, um, and yeah, all over California at different music festivals, record fairs, stuff like that, and hopefully, the bigger record fairs in like Austin and New Jersey, places like that in the future.
That would be awesome. And I'll definitely be tagging you whenever I post this, so people can connect to you and sort of see what you got going on if you do end up moving back to Instagram or to find the link in your bio to find your website, which is
Yes.
um, yeah, see how that goes. So now I have 5 rapid fire questions. It doesn't have to be a super rapid fire, no pressure. um, and these are the ones that I ask everybody on every show. All right. So number one, favorite beverage, and it doesn't have to be alcoholic or anything like that.
Oh man, yeah, I know it's beer for sure. It's a hard choice between my favorite beer though. Uh,
I feel like we've talked about Thai iced tea before, and I feel like maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought for some reason I was like, what if he pulls out Thai iced tea on this?
no, Thai iced tea is fire. Don't get me wrong. But Yeah, no, I like beer. I'm
Beer.
not. Not even gonna lie. Um, just a rant off the top of my head, and this is gonna seem very basic now that they have gotten nationwide distribution. But when I was drinking them, they didn't. Bell's Two Hearted.
Oh no, that's an amazing. I mean, I think consistently year over year rated one of the top beers in
Yeah,
the world. So no,
great beer.
that's a good pick. All right, number two, a song that everyone should listen to, or that you think you want to show people.
Man. Um, fuck, man.
Yeah, and so while you're thinking about that, I'm gonna be making a Spotify playlist where everybody's suggestion is on it. But
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Damn, dude, I'm like, there's so many. There's, I don't want to go like basic, but I also want to go basic.
no, I guess which people under the stairs song? No, I'm just kidding.
People in
No, it
this,
could be
yeah,
a,
no, no, it was gonna be people in. That's why I was like, I don't want to go basic, but I want to
but
go
that's not
basic.
truthfully. I don't think that that's basic. I mean, that's basic to like
That's
you
basic
and
to
I,
me.
and yeah, but it's not. I mean, I think a lot of people that'll be on this, and a lot of people who are listening to this. I mean, hip hop. I listen to all sorts of genres, but like I don't know that like people under the stairs is gonna be a common selection. So don't feel
Well, people under the stairs will be there.
we'll be there.
We'll be there. Yeah.
Got it. Is
That
that the
that was
one
the
off?
first. That was the first 12-inch that I ever bought.
Yeah.
And that's off of Question in the Form of the Answer.
Going back to your first appearance on the hip hop vinyl spinners, that was
Yes.
you had mentioned that was the first one, and you were like talking about the horn sample in it, and I was like, I had paused it, and I was like, I got to go listen to this right now. So this morning I actually was listening to that on the train on the way into work, and I paused it to flip over to listen to the track. But yeah, it's a good one.
Dude, yeah, no, nothing, nothing beats, in my opinion, because that was like my introduction to them. So if someone was going to be introduced to their music, that's a good representation.
Sounds good. That'll be on the playlist for sure. Favorite concert you've ever been to?
Oh man, I've been to a lot of concerts, but fucking Roger Waters, This Is Not a Drill, that was like a bucket list for me, and I just went to that like last year or the year before.
Where was that?
That was in Sacramento at the Golden One Center. It was
Um,
huge, and the show was insane. Like
is
the
that where
show
the
was
Kings play?
amazing. Yeah, actually,
Oh,
I
because
think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I just know that like yeah, the Kings were there, and I'm sure there's another sports team there. I don't know.
No, no, I don't think
No,
that.
I
No,
couldn't remember if
the
they had a
thing
hockey
that
team up there.
no, we don't have a
No.
we don't have no. There's only three hockey teams in California, and they're all
L.A. and San Jose and
two in
Anaheim.
LA and one in San Jose. Yep.
Yeah. What it is? Do the Ducks play in L.A.? I know this is like we're going off on a tangent here, but the
Fuck,
Ducks.
man. I don't think so. I think they play in Anaheim because I think that
Uh,
that's why their attendance is so shitty.
well, I was gonna say because you have like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and they play in Anaheim, but it's just like they got a lot of obscure like naming things down there.
Anaheim's a big one because that's where Disneyland's at, so there's a lot of money
Yeah,
in the area
yeah. I have been there when I was there, but yeah. Favorite place that you've had a drink?
that I've had a drink.
Yeah, and this, I mean, this, thinking about this now, this is only the second episode I recorded, but this may be more geared towards people who are into like, going to a brewery or something like that. But just any kind of
No,
like
man. Like I'm there.
memory.
There was a lot of fuck. I don't know. I guess I'd say
It could even be like I was on this vacation and I was on the beach and I had this Mai Tai. Or I don't know. I
well,
don't
no,
know.
it's not quite as cool as being on the beach, but fucking while I was on tour with my brother's band, we went to I don't even remember what the name of the bar was. It was some random. bar in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and they played their show there. And I remember it being $2 fat tire night, and they comped us the beers though as like the band. So I just
Yeah.
got like I just drank Fat Tire all night, and yeah, I don't know. That bar was really cool. I know it's like really random, but
No, that's the perfect response for what I was like trying to elicit with the question. So that's awesome.
the bar owner actually lived above the bar in an apartment, and he let us stay in his apartment after the show and bought us like a whole fucking feast of Taco Bell.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Have you had? I mean, this isn't one of the questions, but have you had the new fat tire that they've like the new recipe? I haven't had it yet.
I know. How long have they had a new recipe?
Oh God, 8 months, maybe more, maybe more. It's
Oh
like
no. Okay.
they made it a lighter beer now. Not like it's like an IPA or anything, but I think it's maybe more of like a
Like
golden ale instead of I don't know.
oh,
I haven't had it yet.
kind of
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. No, I don't think
Nice.
it's gonna be that light. He's drinking a Modelo. I don't think it's
Yeah.
gonna be that light. What is this is number 5. Yes, number 5. Sorry, I can make sure. What's your guilty pleasure for music?
Probably disco music.
Disco music. Is it
Yeah.
like you like the groove with it, or what's special about disco?
I like that fucking I like that late 70s, early 80s disco funk.
Yeah, yeah. So not yeah, not like what do they even call that? Like boogie or something like that? Is that kind of what it's like?
Hey, even some boogie stuff is all right, man. Like
Yeah,
yeah, like I kind of
I'm not
dig it.
hating.
I
Yeah,
know a lot
there's
of
been
people don't like disco music and like that whole era, but there's
yeah.
some really good artists that were doing some solid stuff. Do you know who Bohannon is? He's like a big name for that era, but if
I
you
know the
haven't heard
name.
him, you should check him out.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you a song. I was just gonna say I don't know if you've heard of Habibi Funk. It's like they're based out of Germany, but they do kind of what you were saying earlier, where they go in the Middle East and pull out like a bunch of unknown releases and then do like a proper re-release and make sure the money gets to the artists or their families. And they have a lot of like that late 70s, early 80s like disco groove, but it's all from like Libya or like that kind of thing. It's wild
Oh
stuff, but
man,
I dig it.
that sounds right up my alley. Actually, that whole like the whole like Nigerian psych and kind of
Oh yeah,
Afro funk scene.
Afro beat, yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
stuff's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, the Zamrock. The
yeah,
Zamrock stuff.
yeah, all that stuff, man.
Yeah. I love that stuff because it's just like I feel like I don't know, I feel like I sound like such a dweeb when I say this, but it's like the you can tell that they have like the passion for the music and they may not have, the best studio or the highest level equipment or but they just like they're passionate about it and I feel like you can feel it through the music and I just love that stuff versus like some of the stuff where it's, you know, just overproduced here.
No, I agree. Sometimes the quality of recording doesn't reflect the passion that people have for the music.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's
Well,
really cool to see bands like that actually take, um, like, it's cool to see them mix like traditional music and the stuff that comes from the area that they're at, and then also
yeah,
blend it with like the stuff that is influencing them from the US or the UK, wherever it's coming from,
that's the
and
best
kind
stuff
of
about the Zamrock.
yeah, no, like the Afrobeat, Zamrock, all that stuff is it's it's cool to see the two cultures kind of blend and make something that's super rad.
Yeah, some of the stuff you're listening to and you're like, this is definitely like Led Zeppelin influence, and then other stuff you're like, this is definitely like James Brown influence. It's
Yep.
yeah, I love it. I love that stuff. Well, on that note, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and have a conversation. Is there anything last thing you want to say?
Fucking peace out. I don't know, man.
No, that's the perfect way to end it. Well, thanks again, Dylan from Record Ghoul, for joining me. And until next week, try some new beer and listen to some new music. Maybe some people under the stairs.
Hell yeah.
Cheers, everyone.